How's it guys, this is Dayvy FPL and welcome back to another Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. This video is going to be kind of the tips/Q&A video for the upcoming game week 37. So I asked you guys to ask me a couple questions or just to leave your replies of certain things that you want me to cover in this video, and I'm going to be covering those specific points. Sorry again if I have not covered your point in this video. You can always leave a comment down below and hopefully I get to them, but otherwise I think I am covering quite a couple of the questions that were asked today. They generally were about the same things, so yeah, let's get straight into it. First things first, if you have not watched the Game Week 37 preview, where I take a look at the previous Game Week 36, and then take a look at my team for the Game Week 37 preview. It's a little bit more based on my team and my thoughts of what transfers I'm going to be making and that kind of thing. I didn't cover captaincy in that video due to me covering it now with a little bit more insight into stats and that kind of stuff. So apologies for that, but if you have not checked it out, I'll be leaving a link down in the description, and I'll also be using a card right now on the video. So I'm going to cover captaincy first, as it's quite an easy one to discuss and quite a set forward thing. So I've just going to be covering basically the best captain options to the end of the season in this slide. As you can see, for Game Week 37, I have Man City, Spurs and Chelsea. And then for Game Week 38, Man City, Southampton and Liverpool. Depending on what captain you want to, which team you want to captain, you can take the team from this slide, and then in the next slide you can kind of choose an option. So just take note of these teams. I think these are the best captaincy options for these specific game weeks. Then in terms of captaincy and triple captaincy options, I'm going to be linking them as the same because there's no real standout triple captaincy option except for maybe a Leicester versus Man City at Man City's home at the Etihad. So you can probably opt for one of the Man City players for that. That's probably the best fixture. However, there's some outside punts that you can go for. The one I really like is Chelsea versus Watford, which is Game Week 37, the Chelsea fixture, as Chelsea at home are quite good, especially Hazard. His home form is pretty decent, and Watford aren't the best defensively. So that's kind of my outside punt for this game week, is if you do have Hazard, I would be looking at captaining him. Otherwise, I'll probably stick to the Man City options of Sergio Aguero or Raheem Sterling. In Game Week 38, it's kind of a last game week hurrah, so you can kind of go for anyone you want. I would be looking at maybe some of the Southampton options. I know it's quite a differential captaincy probably, but they are playing Huddersfield, so you could opt for them. There is the option of a Man United captain this game week. However, I don't know if I'm that confident with giving them the captaincy. We'll talk about bringing them in later on in the video, but in terms of captaincy, I think I would stick with either Eden Hazard or one of the two Man City players, Sergio Aguero and Raheem Sterling. If you have both in your team of Aguero and Sterling, it's quite a tough one. There's not that much that is splitting the two. I just kind of favor Sergio Aguero a little bit, as I think he's going to be chasing the golden boot, and playing up front, he seems to link up well with the wingers and seems to have that final product that's a little bit better than maybe that of Sterling. However, Sterling is a good pick as well, as he does have that extra clean sheet point if they do keep it, and he does get extra points if he does score goals, then a forward. So it comes down to, I think Sergio Aguero is going to be the most popular pick this game week. So if you want to kind of go a little bit more differential, you can go for Sterling. However, personally, I think I'll be going for Aguero. Another option you can go for is Heung-min Son. Obviously, he was benched, or not even benched, he was suspended for the first leg of the Champions League last night, so he will definitely be playing this weekend. I can see him as a good option, as Spurs are kind of looking a little bit tired, and he will bring that rejuvenated energy to the team, and I think they were missing him last night in that game. He offers something that not a lot of the Spurs players offer, is actual shots on target and finishing quality, so I can definitely see him maybe getting some returns this week. And they are playing Bournemouth, which isn't the worst fixture in the world, so could go for him. But as I said, probably the two main ones I'd be going for is a Chelsea or Man City option. A triple captaincy, I would go for Man City versus Leicester this game week, or Hazard as well. I just think it's a little bit too much of a risk maybe on the last game week of the season, as there could be some rotation, and I think a lot of the teams are going to be taking it a little bit easier. You kind of want to captain a player that has something to prove. And right now, Spurs have to finish top 4, and Man City on the title run, and Chelsea also have to try and finish in the top 4, so could go for them. The only reason I put Southampton in here is because they are on a little bit of a nice run of form, and they are playing Huddersfield. Okay, so just in terms of Champions League rotation for the upcoming game week, it's the polar opposite of what I said in the previous Q&A. I think that Liverpool are going to be rotating this week and Spurs won't be. Main reason is that Liverpool play tonight, Wednesday night, and then they play Saturday, and then they play the following Tuesday. So they don't have that many days of rest, whereas Spurs played Tuesday night, they will play on Saturday, and then they play Wednesday. So they have quite a couple more days than Liverpool of rest. So, and I don't think either team will be afforded to kind of rotate their squads. I just think that Liverpool probably could get a result with a lesser team, and Spurs have to kind of win after not really picking up that many points in the past couple game weeks. So in terms of top 4, Spurs have to pick up points, and Liverpool have to as well for the title run. I just think that maybe in terms of rotation, maybe more like minutes will be managed in this fixture against Newcastle. So just keep an eye on that. Also, I just want to take a note of, please pay attention to the Champions League fixture tonight, which is Liverpool versus Barcelona. As a lot of us do have, like myself, we have 3 or 2 Liverpool players, so any injury news or kind of extended minutes might come into play and will affect all of us. So just please pay attention to those, and also to the press conferences coming up. So now the big question of the game week is kind of, are Man United options worth it? So I've kind of narrowed it down to a couple of points that I will address now in terms of making a decision or whether to bring them in or not. So it kind of narrows down to, you have to look at the player that you are transferring them out for this Man United option. So the first thing is, if the player has bad fixtures, I would be fine with doing that. I know Man United aren't on the best form, but they do have some very nice fixtures coming up. So if your player that you have currently has bad fixtures, then I would look at transferring them out. But for me, it's kind of like I'm not going to be transferring them out. Jimenez, who has Fulham at home, for maybe someone like Rashford, as Jimenez still has a very nice fixture. Then the second point is if they are a rotation risk or are injured. Injured is kind of a given. I know a little bit of a stupid point, but I had to link it with rotation risk, as both points kind of allude to the player not playing as many minutes. So if he's injured, I would transfer him out, transfer the player out. I just think that out of all the teams to bring in, Man United have the best fixtures, so I would be looking at bringing Man United options in then. And also, if your player could be a rotation risk, you could look at the likes of maybe Eriksen. However, I don't think that he will be rotated that much. He doesn't really play a position that requires that much energy, so I can see him playing against Bournemouth and then the following week against Ajax again. But maybe if your player like say Trent Alexander-Arnold, who I feel that might be rotated due to the less days of rest, and I could see maybe Joe Gomez coming in. So maybe in that situation you could transfer the player out, as you don't really want to have a 1-point appearance. Then the third point is just if you need to take a punt or a little bit of a differential. The Man United options used to be quite well owned, but have dropped in ownership over the past couple game weeks. So if you need to take a punt on a differential, then I would bring them in. Especially if you're trying to catch up those points now in the mini leagues, because the season is kind of hitting its climax. So you're going to have to maybe take a couple punts on captaincy and that kind of thing. So I would opt for a Man United option then. In terms of the options that you could look at, I've gone for defenders, midfielders and forwards. I don't think I would be bringing in David De Gea. I just think he's a little bit too expensive for the price, and there are other better keeper options out there. So in terms of defenders, I've opted for Luke Shaw and Dalot. Luke Shaw, just your standard defender. He's going to offer you some attacking returns, and he's a set start in that team. So I would go for Luke Shaw. Comes in at 5 million, quite a good pick. Quite reasonable for trying to transfer out players, so you probably could afford him. An option that comes in a little bit more expensive but is tickling my fancy is Dalot. Main reason is that there's been some news reports recently that maybe Rashford and Lukaku could be out for the rest of the season due to injuries. So please pay attention to the press conferences, especially the Man United one, as it could come in handy to see what is going on there. But if the news is true, then I'd be looking at the lot, as I think that he will play on the wing then. And he is still listed as a defender, so a defender playing up in a wing position is a pure FPL gold. So I would probably look at bringing him in, maybe for someone like Trent Alexander-Arnold if I feel that Trent will be rotated. But as I said, the press conferences will tell everything. Now, in terms of midfielders, there's basically only one that you can kind of look at. It's Paul Pogba. Main reason is that it seems that the other midfielders are being rotated and are not in the best form. For example, Martial has fallen out of favor a little bit due to his work rate. So Paul Pogba seems to be the best option there. I don't know if I favor this move that much. I don't think he's a bad FPL option. I just think that he's playing a lot deeper now with Herrera and Matic. So he's not getting those returns like we saw in the middle of the season. But in terms of other options, there's not much variation there, so you're probably going to have to go for Paul Pogba. An option that is quite intriguing is Alexis Sanchez. So he comes in at 10 million, which is quite expensive, so you're going to have to stretch that budget a little bit, but he looks like he will be playing recently. He's been picking up a couple of minutes after coming back from injury, I do believe. I just remember the Alexis Sanchez from Arsenal, where he used to be a captain option every single week, but has fallen off form a little bit at Man United, but hopefully he can kind of rebound and get some goals back. So I would opt for him, especially if you're looking for kind of a differential pick. Could be a good option there. Then in terms of forwards, as I said, the news might be real. I tend to take news reports with a little bit of pinch of salt, so Lukaku and Rashford are basically the only two forward options. I favor Lukaku a little bit more than Rashford due to him playing the centre forward position and Rashford sometimes being moved to the wing. I really like Rashford's work rate though. Seems to always put in a shift, and that's always rewarded, usually with a goal and an assist. But I just favor Romelu Lukaku. But as I said, please pay attention to the injury news. Don't bring these players in if you don't know if they're going to be fit. In terms of Man United options as a whole, a lot of people were asking if they should maybe transfer out other players to bring them in. For me, it's a little bit of a tough situation, especially if you're looking at a player like Eriksen to Pogba. I'm quite a conservative player, so if you like taking risks, then I would go for it. But as a conservative player, I kind of look at the odds of something happening, and for me, it's a little bit of a sideways move from Eriksen to Pogba. I feel that Eriksen could get returns against Bournemouth, as it's quite a nice fixture as well. And I don't know if I'd want to risk it with a team that's not in the best form right now, especially attacking wise. Defensively, they seem to be okay. They're not the greatest, but in terms of attacking options, like Shaw is still getting some assists, and against Huddersfield and Cardiff, you're kind of hoping that they'll get a clean sheet as well. So it all comes down to what you kind of feel. I personally feel that it's not the best move if you have a player that's been providing the whole season, and suddenly because of Man United's fixtures you want to transfer them out. But it's your team and you can do what you want. Also, just want to talk about Wolves and Crystal Palace players, as some people have been asking due to their budget prices if they should be bringing them in. Main player from Wolves being Jota, and then main players from Crystal Palace being probably Zaha. If you're going to be bringing a player in, I would opt for the Crystal Palace players, mainly due to their fixtures. They have Cardiff this game week, followed by Bournemouth on the last game week of the season, whereas Wolves have Fulham at home and then Liverpool away. I will not be looking to play any of my Wolves players against Liverpool on the final day. Just think that that's probably the worst fixture to have. So I would be bringing in Crystal Palace players. Zaha looks a very good option. Even some of the defensive options like Van Aanholt I would opt for. In terms of Wolves, if you want to bring in Jota, you can. Obviously, he fills that midfield slot. You could opt for the penalty taker from Crystal Palace. I just nickname him Millie because I absolutely butcher his name. So you could opt for him if you want. Otherwise, you could opt for Jota if you want to take a one game week punt on the Fulham fixture. But in terms of playing the Crystal Palace players, I would definitely play them. There was a question about whether to play Zaha or Wan-Bissaka. I would just opt for Zaha, as he pretty much, I always will opt for an attacker over defender. So in terms of these players, they look pretty good with their prices to bring them in, but just be cautious of the players you're taking out. Then in terms of Liverpool and Man City players, a couple of questions were whether to transfer Salah out for Sterling. I personally would not mind transferring out Liverpool players for Man City players. I just think that Liverpool's last two fixtures are a lot tougher than Man City's, so And especially for Man City being knocked out of the Champions League, they're going to be focusing on the Premier League, so you can see them playing full strength every single game week now to the end of the season, whereas Liverpool rotation and minutes could be managed with the Champions League. So if you want to transfer out Salah to Sterling, I don't think that's that bad of a move. So that's basically going to wrap up the video, guys. Please subscribe if you are new or have not and are enjoying the content. It would help the channel out a lot, especially towards the end of the season, trying to hit those subscriber milestones. But otherwise, like the video and share it if you enjoyed it. And also follow me on Twitter at Dayvy Fpl. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I want to be signing off. This has been Dayvy Fpl, and I'm out. Cheers, bye.